In my travels, I meet interesting people. When I meet interesting people, I ask them to be guests on the program. One of them is Mark Ellis, who joins me now. Mark is senior editor at Assist News, and he's got the coolest website in the world, godreports.com. When he told me about it, I knew I had to have him on the program. Mark, welcome. Where do we find you today?
Capistrano Beach, California.
Yeah, I love Capo Beach. Where I lived when I was a young man in 1978, Beach Road. I love it to death. Mark, tell people about God Reports and Assist News and what you do.
God Reports was set up to support and encourage Christian missions, and we do that by collecting stories and testimonies from the mission field and stories of general interest to Christian believers. We use those stories to inspire people to get involved in missions, to give, pray, go on a short-term trip. And the stories we like to choose are ones that really inspire faith.
Now, Mark, how did you get to reserve godreports.com? Who thought that up? Because that's really a unique website, godreports.com.
It's funny because I originally wanted God's stories. That was taken, and I decided on God Reports. This is back in 2008 and 2009. That's when we first went live.
And how has it prospered? It obviously has prospered well because it's a very well produced website. I read a few of the stories just before the program. I encourage everyone to go over it. It's updated constantly, godreports.com. How did this come about?
I took my first overseas mission trip to the southern Philippines in 2004 to visit two Bible translators. And they lived in a house that was the size of my two-car garage. They had to be evacuated from that house twice, one under threat from communist guerrillas, another under threat from Islamists. And over the time that they translated the Bible, the wife got breast cancer and overcame that. Their son fell from a tree and was partially paralyzed. So I saw all these sacrifices that they made to bring the Bible to this tribal group, the Tagabawa. And as I was flying home, I thought I could write their story, but how many other missionaries are out there with inspiring stories to tell? What if I create a website to start collecting these stories and use them to inspire service?
So, Mark, there are literally hundreds of thousands of listeners who have done a short term mission trip. Mine have been in Mexico, other people. My wife has gone to Jericho to serve the Palestinian population there. There's got to be a gazillion people who've done short-term mission trips. Is there any other website that covers them like godreports.com?
Well, a lot of mission trips are affiliated with a mission organization. So they will often be posting stories and videos of these trips. And if you go on YouTube and you just type in Christian mission trip, you'll be getting a regular supply of people posting trips like we do. And we try to select the best of those videos for our
No, so
website.
you're editing from online content. I didn't get that. By the way, not only were the Ellises and the Hewitts together on the Hillsdale cruise, we ran into them in the theater in London. So we have very similar tastes, and we love Capo Beach, even though I'm on the East Coast now. He's on the West Coast. So we are very simpatico. But tell me, in terms of the plethora of number that you have before you, if you actually are looking at all those mission trip videos, how do you pick the ones that you post and draw attention to?
Well, there's a certain quality of a trip that I'm attracted to, and that's where you see real spiritual engagement with the people that are there. I mean, there are many trips where people do a project where they're painting a wall or helping, some kind of a project like that. But I love to see the interaction with the children, with the adults in meaningful ways that help build their faith.
You are also the senior editor of Assist News. What is that?
That website is devoted strictly to persecution issues. And sadly, Christian persecution has been rising the last 5 years. And that's something that's a burden on my heart, and I'm sure on yours as a fellow believer.
Well, I've been following the Syrian situation very, very closely, and of course, after the collapse of the Assad regime, some Christians were massacred by. I don't know if it was the regime or not. I'm not in a position to judge, but they were massacred not long thereafter. So yes, and in Nigeria, a Roman Catholic priest was just freed. I've got a friend in Anchorage. He had been a priest in the Anchorage. Not many people who were taken by Boko Haram get away. Unfortunately, is that a website, assist.com, or is that covered at God Reports as well?
Assist.net covers the persecution issues, and God Reports covers a broad range of stories other than persecution. But you may
Now,
be aware that 2 days ago, a Catholic church was attacked in eastern Congo, and 38 people were killed, men, women, and children.
no, I
Yes,
did not know
by
that.
Fulani militants who are actually affiliated with ISIS. So that one was terrible. They attacked right after midnight during an all-night prayer vigil. So just a horrible, horrible uh, incident in that part of the world.
So, Mark, it is generally said, it's often said, that the persecuted church gets zero attention in the legacy media. Do you think that's correct?
Here and there, you see it covered. I think what happened with the in the Middle East with a lot of displaced people that got some attention after the Iraq War and just all the disruption that's been happening uh, in Syria and in other places. So it does occasionally merit attention, but in my mind, it needs more attention.
Absolutely. Assist.net. You and I did not talk about assist.net. We just talked about godreports.com because
Right.
assist.net is pretty difficult stuff to think about and pray about, but godreports.com is kind of fun. Is that how you divide it in your mind?
Well, I love this, the encouraging stories, the stories that build faith that we put on God Reports, the stories that show that God is still active and on the move, just as he was in the book of Acts. And that encourages me and I think other believers. And then there are the tough stories that, our hearts go out to those people. And there's a balance there. I couldn't cover just the hard stories all the time. I like to have a balance in my life.
Oh, I hear you. That's how I do my show. Just very quickly, are they growing? Are people visiting godreports.com and assist.net?
We had about 500,000 page views on God Reports last year. We actually were sad to say during the 2020 presidential campaign, ourselves and other conservative Christian media were suppressed by Google and other so- social media. And we had probably close to 4 million views in 2019, and that dropped off after that suppression.
Well, then we will work to bring it back up. Godreports.com and assist.net. Mark Ellis, good to see you across the country all that way. Enjoy a fine, cool evening in Capo Beach. I botched the second website there talking to Mark Ellis. It's assistnews.com. Assistnews.com. And indeed, they have a story on the brutal attack in the eastern Congo this past Sunday. 38 people killed in a Roman Catholic church service that was going all night in the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, but this was in eastern Congo, not western Congo. And I haven't seen that anywhere. I just confirmed it, Vatican News as well, sysnews.com, confirmed by Vatican News. How brutal. And have you heard about it? Anywhere. Maybe you get the Vatican News service, but bookmark assistnews.com if you want to find out what's going on in the persecuted church around the world. Godreports.com for everything else. And I'm very glad to have made the acquaintance of Mark Ellis. We spend a lot of time praying for the 20 people who are held hostage in Gaza, and we should, and we will continue to do so. You just wonder why the savagery in the Democratic Republic of Congo gets no coverage, zero coverage. Now, Nigerian atrocities sometimes do. The persecuted church in China very rarely does because they're just ubiquitous. The Chi Com party is everywhere. Chinese Communist Party is everywhere, and they're watching everyone and everything, and they're a big, big stick, and they wield it. They've got Jimmy Lai in solitary confinement. They've got, they're translating the Bible differently, using Mandarin versions and including stuff that's not in the Bible. They've suppressed Christian music completely or taken over the Christian music industry in China. But the brutality in Africa doesn't seem to matter to anyone. Now, there aren't going to be any mission trips to the Democratic Republic of Congo. In fact, the number of mission trips have dropped off dramatically in Mexico when violence soared there over the last 2 decades. It used to be a rather routine thing for churches across the United States to go to Mexico and build a house or build a church or to expand a community center, do things. But when it gets dangerous, not only do you not go, you don't want to go, and you don't help the local church by doing that. But I hope you will visit assistnews.com occasionally and godreports.com. That's assistnews.net. Geez, how often do I have to get it wrong? But they're not a sponsor, right? Mark is not a sponsor. He's just a friend that I met while traveling. I like to bring people stories like that and open the eyes of people. I am by nowhere, any measure, a missionary-minded person. Many people are. The new Pope was. The new Pope left Chicago and went to Peru for 25 years or however long he was a missionary in Peru. One of my law school roommates goes to Peru often. I've got a friend, Bud, who's been pretty much everywhere in the world on mission trips. Fetching Mrs. Hewitt has done them. I'm a studio journalist, and so I'm staying home most of the time, and it's quite a production to get 2 weeks off, much less a mission trip type off. So I want to just tell you, at least keep him in your prayers and support him when you can. Not Mark. Mark was not asking for money. Mark is not a sponsor. Mark's just telling the stories. And I think that's a very, very valuable thing to do. So Mark, assistnews.net, assistnews.net, and godreports.com.